All right, let's do it. We got the legendary Sasha Grey is on the show. She's got a new show coming out. Actually, Sasha, sounds very similar to ours. The Gray Zone is just kind of like ask any fucking question you want. We'll talk about anything and everything. And I mean, that's what we've been doing for the past like decades. So first of all, stay the fuck out of our lane. But second of all, good choice. I think it's a good one. People love that kind of shit. So I think there's something about someone like you too. Like you're going to let it fly. You're going to give the real truth and the real answer. So I think it should be very interesting.
Definitely. I'm excited. It's also just culturally a different time. I feel like sometimes I'm a broken record, but now our culture and probably social media has a lot to do with that, is starting to open their minds and be more receptive to other people. So, and other points of view, even though we're living in a divisive time. But
when you say you're a broken record, what do you mean?
I feel like I have my entire career sort of talked about the same things, right? So even when I'm not talking about empowerment, somehow I'm talking about empowerment one way or another. But it's also a very important thing for me. However, I feel, especially as a woman, and especially somebody that got into the adult industry at such a young age, if I wasn't fighting ageism, I was fighting sexism or preconceived notions. And for me, it was always about remaining an independent, strong, outspoken individual, regardless of stereotypes that might be thrown upon me.
Yeah.
And it's an exciting time. I just hope that we stick with it as a culture for sure. So,
yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
We just looked up your age. You are younger than I thought. You've been in the game. You've been doing it for a long time, which is, I mean, it just makes it that much more interesting to know that like from such a young age, you kind of were talking about it and being about it. And yeah, you're right. I mean, the world is just kind of like listening now for the first time. Are you like, finally, motherfuckers, I've been talking about this forever.
Yes. And then there's a part of me that sometimes I get a little bit down just because I hope that it's not all marketing, right? Still, people, especially since the pandemic began and in the wake of George Floyd's killing, we've seen a lot of performative actions, right? And sometimes I get worried that the important messages will get lost. And especially when it comes to talking to young people who so often need guidance, like I hope that these things don't get lost in the imagery and hype of social media at all. That's really important to me. So that's what's exciting about the show being live. I feel like we don't have to follow a format. So, I mean, we do, it's still a TV show. So we have segments and we have fun games that we get to play and we have special guests. But with this, the audience is there, they're watching and they're leaving comments. And I think in the beginning, it'll be a little bit tricky, just kind of getting used to that open format. But once we find our groove, I really hope that we can use that to our advantage because sometimes I think I can relate when I was a kid, seeing things in pop culture, but also feeling like, oh, well, I'll never be a part of that. Or that's just not who I am. And maybe I would have liked to ask more questions of people or things that I saw. So it really gives the audience the opportunity to do that when we can.
Are you worried about giving like bad advice?
We have.
What if you don't give? There was one question that was, should I try transgender dating apps? That's a lot of responsibility on you there, Sasha.
Loaded question. Like, I don't know, bro. Should you? That's up to you, man.
Right. I think that's what's going to be so important about having like Dem as a co-host is he's a really funny dude. So we'll be able to play off of each other in that way. Yeah, for sure. I didn't really, even though I was always outspoken about what I did and who I am, like I grew up in the spotlight, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I became a woman in the spot, whatever that spotlight was, but I learned in front of the public and I didn't really realize until I did like my first book tour, the responsibility that I had to my fans and to the people that looked up to me. And it really hit me and sat with me. So yeah, of course it can be worrisome, especially, I feel like we live in such an ADHD world, especially with social media now. We all have devices. We have so many distractions, and even my own live streams. I'll say something, and not 30 seconds later in the chat, somebody will say, "Oh yeah, she just said she's going to do this," and you're like, "Well, no, that's actually not even close to what I was saying." So yeah, of course, it's not so much worried about giving bad advice. It's, will somebody interpret it the wrong way?
Oh, so it's never your fault. You're good. You
No, I'm golden. I got a pillow here. No, but,
like, do you think you have, like, let's say the person who asked that question, because that question stuck out to me when I watched the teaser. Do you think that person is like going to go get on transgender dating apps now because you said yes?
Possible, but more power to.
How crazy is that?
I mean, if I can just weigh in on that question, I think a person who asked that question is looking for a yes.
Yeah.
I think they just want to be told, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you're uncomfortable. Maybe there's a stigma. Maybe you're not comfortable with yourself yet. Go do it. And they're going to be like, okay, fuck yeah. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. And again, when I go back to saying, like, it feels like we're finally opening up as a culture, like, these are conversations that I don't think en masse we were having even 5 years ago. Like, I had done, I'll tell you, I even had interviews that I was supposed to do, like long format things where people try to change my voice, and they wanted me to write a different piece. And so I would leave and I would say no, or they want to frame you a certain way. And so I feel like it's really time for the underrepresented to be able to have a voice. And that would have been so important to somebody like me as a teenager, right? Mm-hmm. And as a young adult too.
Do you think you are still, have you written enough books, done enough acting, and done enough outside of porn that, like, are people still surprised when you are pretty well-spoken, pretty articulate, pretty, like, into these issues and on, do you think that you've broken out of that mold and that stereotype enough? Which, like, we've done we did our show with Asa Akira for a while, and, like, I learned so much more about that industry and what's wrong with the stereotypes and the problems with them. And, like, but I feel like most people really haven't. So do you feel that you're still, like, surprising people when you write a book or give a speech or talk to people or whatever?
Yeah, it depends. And like I said, even 5 years ago, we probably couldn't have had some of these conversations. And when I said, sometimes I worry that, like, it'll be, these topics are performative for some people, it also comes from just such a personal place of, like, hey, I've done these things. And then even in my own country, it's hard to get certain people to pay attention to them. And then I leave and I go around the world and these thoughts and ideas are embraced, right? Mm. So especially for America, I'm, like, super excited about this. But yeah, I feel like it's a case-by-case basis. Mm-hmm. I feel it more so here than when I go international, like travel international.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, I keep hearing more and more shit like that about this country from, like, all different walks of life. And it's like, boy, we suck. We're doing a lot of shit wrong right now.
I want to change that. I've always wanted to change that. And I think it's an important message, because especially for kids, we live in, when you're young, you live inside of your head so much. And there's so often you don't have a figure to bounce these ideas off of. Mm-hmm. And if you try to, you're usually shamed, right? And there's different statistics too that, like, we'll go over on in the show where, fuck, it's 2020 and we're still here. We're still in the same place. But I hope we can change that, even if just a little bit.
You mentioned a few times that, like, it would have been nice for a younger you to have, like, that voice to hear. Do you, like, regret or anything like that? Like, are you like, oh, I would have done things differently? Or
no, I think just more so when I was a teenager, like, before the adult industry, because I had my own ideas and my own fantasies, and not just sexual either, right? But being allowed and being told that it's okay to be different. Like, I didn't have that until maybe I started reading different books or listening to different music. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, these people, they're validating these feelings for me, right? So even if it was being exposed to certain musicians at a younger age, I think that would have helped me for sure.
You might have just answered it, but we have a question. in another video series of ours. If you could go back in time and tell what age is it, John? Your like 18-year-old self, 15-year-old self? What is it?
You can go back to any age.
Go back any age you want, and you can only tell yourself 10 words. What age would you go back to, and what like sentence would you tell yourself?
Oh, that's so hard.
It's very hard. It's a really difficult.
But I mean, the reason I ask is because you just said like, don't be afraid to be different. Would that have just been the simple message you would tell yourself? Like, fuck it, just do. Also, by the way, it sounds like you were not really that afraid to be different. I mean, you're pretty different. You took a pretty unorthodox path.
For sure.
Like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't sound like you really cowered away from, any experience or any job. It sounds like you said, fuck it, I'm going to go do what most people consider the craziest job in the world. So were you afraid to be different? I would argue not at all.
So, like when I was 18 during that period, absolutely not.
Right.
But let's say like 11 to 13 and then 13 to 16, those are such drastic differences in age, even though it's a very short time span.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if I could tell my 15-year-old self, you'll find your people. You'll find your people.
That is a pretty comforting thought that like eventually you'll fall into the right crew.
Yeah. That feeling of not, that one day you will not be in your head and feeling so isolated. That would be it.
So you don't feel that anymore?
Oh, for sure. But
I was going to say, because what's the secret, Sasha?
When does that stop? Yeah.
Before it was like, let's say, even within my own circle of close friends, I was still always the odd one out. I was still always, you're weird. You're weird, Now it's more so just not so much like the stereotypes that people throw at me, but rather being a person in the public eye and how that affects relationships. Like friendships even, and sometimes it can be hard just to trust people and their motivations. So it's a different sentiment. It's a different reasoning.
Do you think that this mentality you have and this approach that you have is a big reason why you were so successful in the adult industry?
100%. Yeah.
I mean, obviously you're pretty, obviously, people want to watch, but like, what was it about you that, you were like top of the game for a reason? Why do you think that was?
I was young. I was 18, white, and outspoken. And I wasn't afraid to try anything.
Yeah, well, I think that's what a lot of people like watching.
Yeah. So it's not just like I never played a passive role, you can say. So I think
not that I saw.
Would you put yourself up on like? So when Asa was on our show, we asked her like all time, where does she think she ranks? And I don't think Asa put herself in like the top 50. It was like a crazy number.
She's crazy. She's self-deprecating. That's the thing.
I'm like, Asa, you've been doing this for like 20 years and you still, shut up. You're like top 3. And she didn't think so at all.
Where would you put your stuff?
That is hard though, I have to say. I'm not good at ranking systems. I really hate ranking systems. I don't know.
Okay, would you say you're on the Mount Rushmore?
Top 4 or 5? Yes or no?
Sucks.
Take down all statues.
I don't know. Like top 10?
Top 10's pretty, yeah. You're safely top 10.
Yeah, we'll answer for you. Yeah, top 10. Do you... I would imagine, most people will know you from the adult industry, but do you get a lot of entourage nuts? Because we have a lot of people at work who are entourage fans who like still to this day watch it every night, can recite every line, and will probably know everything about you just because you were on that show. Is that almost equal with like the porn fans?
An insane amount.
Right.
I have people when I'm streaming on Twitch every day. Every single day. What? Oh, that's where I remember you from. You ruined Vince's life with drugs. Like, it's not real, right? Right?
They don't. Entourage fans are like wrestling fans. They think that shit's real. They think that Gold and Vince are real people.
There are some. It comes up so often. One of my moderators is like, we need to make a command for this because it gets old like repeating the same thing every time. So yeah, get it a lot even today.
That was your scene in that, or not your in many scenes, but the pool scene where you have Bush out. I think that is one of the more iconic scenes, and I think that led to a Bush revolution, Sasha.
It did. It really did. I mean, I remember seeing that and being like, "That's different. That's not what most girls are doing right now. That's important."
Yeah, I feel like I wasn't the only one in the industry at that time, but I think it took it outside of the industry, right? And I just remember people going crazy. And when I was doing press at the time, like it just kept coming up. I'm like, why are you so shocked? I know you watch porn. You're seeing it.
Yeah.
Funny.
Are you involved in the adult industry at all anymore? Do you do like fan events, or I mean, obviously you're not shooting or anything, right? But do you still do appearances or those like conventions or anything like that?
No, not really. No. And I had started DJing around like 2010. So I was like hosting parties at clubs before that, which is kind of just like a segue out of that convention type circuit.
Yeah.
And then, but I was writing a lot about music and life and making music. And then I was like, I want to DJ. I don't want to, I think actually somebody came to me first, like, would you? And I was like, would I? Yeah, it's better than just hosting in a club, like taking pictures, like let me bring the party. And then I felt like that kind of took over because then I can still do like meet and greets before or after the shows anyways.
Is it something that you like don't want to associate with though? Like did you purposely try to distance yourself from that industry, or is it just that you naturally kind of moved on?
I think it was a natural timing. Especially actually I didn't even make like a quote unquote retirement announcement until 2 years after I'd already left the industry. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I was probably still went to like one more award show or something like that. And then I came out with the book. And then during that press tour, somebody had actually brought it up and I was like, actually I'm not even in the business anymore. So it just happened sort of naturally because I had all of these other things going on.
If you got an invitation now to an award show, a convention, some sort of event, would you go, or is it something you're trying to stay away from?
I don't think so, just because usually when you're going to those things, it's about like promoting a movie you're in, mm-hmm. right? Or promoting a website, or you're working for a company. So I don't really understand what my purpose would be there. But
all right, I'm hypothetical. Asa, a couple other like major titans of the game are going to do a video together and just talk about like the industry. Would you do that? Right. You find value in that, or you just
for sure. Yeah, because look, for me, it's even though I'm out of the industry, it's still important for me to carry on and grow, and I have grown with my fans, right? So like continue that elevation of being sex positive. And so it's just finding another way to do that. And that's another reason I'm so excited about the show, because we can still have these conversations that are incredibly important. They're still valid today, but it's just doing it in a different way. So I think it's all about like, who is it for? And as long as I'm involved somehow creatively, mm-hmm. right? Not just playing a passive role.
Mm-hmm. Is there any part of you that feels like, I get not regret, but like you're jealous of like the OnlyFans revolution? Like, are you?
Yeah, you came up at the wrong time, girl.
I put out a whole book of selfies, like before selfies were a thing. Our books don't make money.
No, I mean, by the way, you could still do it. It's not like it's right? Not on the table anymore.
I don't know if it hit the same way. But
are you kidding me? Like, the comeback tour would hit. It wouldn't hit the same. It would hit bigger and better.
But you know who does it? This girl, Belle, I'm probably gonna butcher her name. She's like an e-girl, Belle Delphine.
Yeah.
And she signed up. She does like cosplay and stuff, and she signed up for an OnlyFans just to be a major troll. And I was like, if I did it, I joke with my close Twitch community. We're always joking like, yeah, I'm gonna sign up for OnlyFans, and it's gonna be pictures of my dirty dishes and like my elbow and the back of my knee. You know?
I guarantee you, people will pay for it.
Came out and just like took it next
Listen,
Next
Sasha
level.
Gray's dirty dishes I'm sure they would, I promise you, it's a weird world.
Yep.
I knew the new show is The Gray Area on Ven TV. Where can people find that? Tell them how to get there.
So Ven TV is a new network in the digital streaming era, right? So you could find it Twitch, YouTube, Twitter. It'll be like the first network live streamed on Twitter officially. YouTube, if I didn't say YouTube already, and then it will also be on different smart TVs and devices as well. And we will be Wednesdays and Fridays. Our first show is August 7th, this Friday. And then the following week will be every Wednesday and every Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes.
For your time. We look forward to it. And thanks.
Thank you very much.
Guys, take
Have a
care.
good one.
Catch you
You
later.
too.